So what's new with DORA? Well, we've got a new report. Hopefully you've read that. The impact of generative AI in software development, which just gives us a lot of the latest information that we have and latest insights. Of course, AI is something that we're going to continue to dig into 2025. So I'm really excited to have this conversation today. Beyond that, sponsorships are still available. If your company is interested in sponsoring the 2025 report, you can get information right there at dora.dev/sponsors or reach out to me. I can help connect your organization with the right people to get your logo into the report and a bunch of other great benefits that go along with that. And thank you to all of the folks that have supported us over the years. And then I think finally, we have our DORA Awards are currently open. And again, just as a quick reminder of these are the Google Cloud DORA Awards. So there are some constraints placed on them. And, constraints are enablers, as we like to say, right? So the enabling constraint here is that you have to be a Google Cloud customer. Once you've done that, then you can apply for a DORA award where we really want to celebrate the great activities and the great outcomes that you're able to achieve with your team, taking some of DORA's research and putting it into practice. And for those of you that aren't on Google Cloud, this is not a Google Cloud sales pitch. We want to celebrate and amplify your successes taking DORA and putting it into practice as well. We just have other avenues for doing so, like this community right here. So thank you all for taking our insights, using them as your hypotheses, putting them into practice, and achieving great results. And I think that's it for me today. Back to you, Amanda.
Happy to pass this over to Derek. And I don't know if Kevin, you're going to be speaking as well. We've got at least a couple of the researchers here today. But I know that every time I get time with Derek and Kevin, I learn so much and I am better for it. So super excited to have them here today and to kick off this discussion. Derek?
Yeah. Kevin, feel free to chime in as much as you'd like. This is not a Kevin endorsed deck, so don't ascribe anything I say to Kevin unless you want that, Kevin. Yeah, I'll go ahead and share something real fast. I'm actually super excited to not talk and to do more listening today than talking, but I thought I'd kind of maybe prime the conversation a little bit with a quick update on the 2025 DORA report. And I was just gonna do this 3 quick things. What's going on with the survey? How DORA, like the little recipe behind it, how we get some perspective to you. And then make a plea for your input, just to get an idea of how we can make this survey better to answer the questions that you actually have, right? Our job is not necessarily to answer like whatever hunch we have. It's more to understand what you're trying to accomplish and how you're trying to accomplish it, and then better enable you to do that with some information, right? So the survey for us, the list came pre-filled with 7 things, so I had to create 7, but it worked out pretty well. Speaking of constraints, we try to figure out key outcomes, what people are trying to accomplish. We determine relevant practices that we think might connect to those outcomes. We try to find confounds, things that would, those are pretty much gotchas. When someone says, well, did you think about this? We like to say, we did think about that. Sometimes we didn't, but we try to have pretty good coverage there. After that, we design the questions to capture those constructs. We test them, we loop there for a while. Sometimes it feels like we loop there forever. And then we launch the survey, and then we analyze the survey. And then magic happens, or lots of stress and bouncing back and forth, and eventually a report appears. And yeah, and then we do it again. Right now, we're in sort of this phase. These first 4, we're trying to determine what outcomes we're interested in, what are the relevant practices to study this year. Given the outcomes relevant practices, what are some confounds that would mess up our data? And trying to design these questions to best get at these constructs, these concepts of interest. And that all leads to us being able to do this really simple thing. Kevin's now here as a qualitative researcher, so it's a lot more complicated now because there's so much more nuance, and it's not as boring and straightforward as this any longer. But the underlying, no, it's awesome, Kevin. The underlying recipe is we figure out what this community and the developer community and what organizations are trying to accomplish, right? If we don't do that, no good. Then we figure out how people are trying to accomplish these goals. What are you doing to try to achieve this? Also, we put some best guesses in here, right? Sometimes we look for some emerging trends that maybe only a small proportion of people are trying, but they swear by it. So then we put that to the test. And what we try to do is that arrow right there, we try to give you traditionally a number. We just say, yeah, there's a connection here or there's not a connection. And now that we have this qualitative research component led by Dr. Kevin Storr on the call. Okay, Kevin. We're able to provide some nuance and some explanatory power behind what's going on here. But there's 4 things we could do. Like this came with 4, this image, so I just came up with 4 also, but it also worked pretty well too. We could be wrong about the goals, right? We could be wrong about what you're trying to achieve, and then you don't care, right? Like who would want to read about practices that aren't helping you achieve what you want to achieve if our goals were, I'm not going to come up with a good example off the top of my head. I'm not going to even try. But we got to get the goals right? We got to be able to be studying what you want to achieve as the DORA community. The practices that we use might be things that you can't really implement, right? Maybe it's beyond your locus of control, right? Maybe it's a macroeconomic thing that's causing people to get these goals or not. You don't have control over that, presumably. Maybe you do, but I doubt it. I don't. Also, some practices are just really difficult to implement. Another problem would be we could be studying things that we just can't measure that well. So even if we say this practice is impacting this goal, our measures are so off that it's pointless to even try to talk about this. So we have to think about our methodologies, right? And make sure that the goals and practices can fit within the methodology we're constrained to. Also, we could just pick practices that have so many confounds connected to it that it's impossible for us to get a clear signal. Those are 4 things that could go wrong. So given those things that could go wrong and where we currently are in designing the survey, I was really hoping, and Amanda, I hope it's okay that I asked this prompt for the lean coffee, but I don't know if this is where lean coffee tends to go, but given where we are and how we could mess up and how we try to do things, I was really curious to get some input from the DORA community about what people want to learn from the report in 2025, what teams are trying to achieve, right? What practices, how are people trying to accomplish these goals? And what are some questions, just generally, more things like, what's a question you wish you could answer, right? You can kind of think of us, because that's what we are, as sort of a team of researchers and practitioners that are really oriented to answering the questions you have. And that's our goal every year. It's just sometimes we have better signals than other years. So hopefully this year, we want to be aligned with what you want to accomplish and how you're trying to accomplish it and answer the questions you want us to answer. And we're running out of time because we are really close to launching the survey. So we'd love your input.